Recording. Awesome. Well, hi students. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Hope you are enjoying some Chick-fil-A. And we are excited to introduce women in chemicals as well as our three panelists that join us today. So we'll go ahead and get started. Maybe. There we go. So quickly, I'm Karoline Thomas. I am the education chair for Women in Chemicals. My day job, I am in business development for Mission Chemical. Business development for us means I'm in outside sales. So I cover all of North America as well as Mexico. And Mission Chemical is based in Houston, Texas, and we are a regional distributor, predominantly covering the Houston area, although we, as I said, I do cover North America. So predominantly we are in oil and gas, but I have some customers that are in paints and coatings, your industrial cleaning products, construction, etc. I've been in the industry for 10 years as of December 1st. So I'm almost there, almost a decade in. So excited to be here with you all today. Quickly, I wanted to make a quick introduction to Women in Chemicals. So Women in Chemicals is a nonprofit that started in 2021 with a main goal overarching to create connection. We saw, especially during the pandemic, a lot of isolation and wanted to find ways that we can find opportunities to support women and then women supporting women. And we also have our male allies who, as they say, when all boats rise when the ocean's rising. So we have several different programs that we offer, a mentorship program. We have live virtual events. We host a book club with professional development, a conference. We also have a podcast where we feature different women and their stories. We do lunch and learns, and exciting to launch our careers in chemicals, where we are presenting to students like you all. But we also have a job board that will be launching in 26, where you'll be able to see different roles and opportunities with our corporate partners in the industry. So stay tuned for that. And all of this is free thanks to our sponsors. So joining online, you'll have an opportunity at the end of the call to scan a QR code and join us. And pretty much it means you get an email every Monday that talks about the different programming that we have and the option to sign up for any of those virtual events. The only thing that's not free is the conference. It will be in Miami next year. We hope to have some students come join us. So stay tuned for more on that. I'm also excited today to be joined by three incredible panelists. I'm going to let them introduce themselves briefly, and I will start with Karoline.
Hi, everyone. My name is also Karoline. I currently work for Matthey, which is a sustainable technologies company, a chemical company. It's a variety of things, but the overall goal and mission of the company is to improve air quality and catalyze the net zero transition. So the main way we do this is through catalysts. And to just make it more relatable, the most common thing that we produce is catalytic converters in cars, which take toxic gases and convert them into less toxic gases as they get emitted from cars. So that's where I work. I'm currently the Chief Technology Officer's business partner, but more notably, the past 2 years in Johnson Matthey, I've spent in the lead rotational program, which is an early careers program, pretty accessible to possibly any of you after you graduate, where you do 3 8-month rotations in different roles in the company. So I've done a variety of different roles, but I've also moved a lot through that. And now I'm in a similarly developmental role, but I'm working on more strategic projects, and I'm going to be moving to the UK soon for that role. And I'm also a Villanova grad as of 2023, and I did my bachelor's in chemical engineering. So
awesome. Well, welcome back to Villanova. Thanks for coming, Karoline. Next, I'd like to introduce Haley. Haley comes from Hacros Chemicals. Haley, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Beste. I'm with Hacros Chemicals. So, Hacros Chemicals, we're an employee owned company, which is pretty great. We're based out of Kansas City, Kansas. We have chemical manufacturing, distribution, and we also have our own fleet of trucks, which is pretty cool and different from a lot of other industries. Hacros serves a wide range of markets. So, we do agriculture, auto care, personal care, household, industrial, oils, gas, water treatment, and a lot of other different things. So if anyone's in the market, go ahead and give one of our great salespeople a call. I am our corporate safety manager. So I'm lucky enough that I get to cover all of our branches. So we have 28 branches in 21 different states, and I get to hang out with everybody. I've been with Harcross for 8 years. In my current role, I'm responsible for industrial hygiene sampling, process safety management, OSHA record keeping, managing workers' compensation, conducting safety audits and inspections, new hire training, and just other related tasks company wide.
Awesome. Thank you, Haley. And next we have Emily. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and pronounce your company name better than I can, although I want my prize.
I'll give you the prize. So thanks. My name's Emily, and I'm excited to share a little bit about Jungbunzlauer and my role there. So Jungbunzlauer is a global leader in producing safe, sustainable, and biodegradable ingredients of natural origins. Our portfolio includes hydrocolloids, acidulants, and nature-identical mineral salts. These ingredients are used in foods, beverages, personal care, and healthcare worldwide. We're passionate about sustainability, and we use fermentation-based processes, and we are really, really focused on sustainability in our company. So if this means anything to anybody, we have a platinum medal from EcoVadis for our manufacturing facilities. So a little bit about me. In my role as a senior food scientist for application development, I work on optimizing food formulations using our ingredient portfolio. That means leading technical projects, running application trials, and collaborating with cross-functional teams to help customers create innovative products. And I've worked on everything from plant-based foods to salad dressings to mineral-fortified gummies. My role combines science, creativity, collaboration, and I really love being part of a company that values sustainability, and it empowers all of us in leadership positions across the chemical industry. I've been in the food manufacturing industry total for about 6 years, and with Jungbunzlauer for about 3 years. And I graduated from BYUI with a food science degree. And if you see a cat running in the background, her name is Kyla.
Love it. Well, hopefully my dog eventually makes his way through so they can say hi. Thank you, Emily. Well, awesome. Well, that covers our introduction. So I'm going to be able to cut here to a panel discussion. We have some set questions just to kind of give some background to share with you all. But students, if you have questions that you think of, please jot those down. We'll have time for a Q&A after this and would love to hear from you all. All right. Well, wonderful. Thank you, panelists, for introducing yourselves. It's so fun to get to know you all myself. So want to kind of go through our career beginnings as well as some of the resources that we can share as advice to students that are looking to start their careers. So one of the first questions I'd like to ask is, how did you decide the chemical industry was the right fit for you? And what has really kept you here? Emily, I'll start with you.
All right. So yeah, for me, I've always been passionate about using science to make both people and the planet healthier. I think a lot of when people think of food or chemical industry, we tend to think bad, toxic waste, fertilizers. So for me, it's really important to focus on making the planet healthier and making humanity healthier. And for me, the chemical industry plays a huge role in that mission. What really excites me is innovating ways to sustainably convert natural resources from into mineral forms that are more bioavailable for the human body. That sense of purpose for me, so creating solutions that improve health and sustainability, has kept me here and continues to inspire me more every day.
I love that. Did you know, you said that you've always liked it. Did you know as like a kid, like were you a 10-year-old playing with food and being like, I want to be a food scientist? Because I would never have thought that. I wanted to be a biologist to swim with dolphins. So I'm just curious.
So, yeah, I would say for me, when I was about 8, I started experimenting, making stuff in the kitchen. I lost my way a little bit in high school. I thought I was going to be a psychologist or an English teacher, and none of those really panned out for me once I got into school. And then I found food science, and I am a nerd. I love chemistry, physics, calculus. Give it all to me. And I really like eating my projects. So food science just ended up being perfect for me.
That's so cool. I bet you would have made a great psychologist too. But
Thanks.
Karoline, I see you nodding your head. How'd you end up in the chemical industry? What drew you here?
Sure, yeah. I guess building off of Emily's answer, like the chemical engineering, the chemical industry provides you with like a lot of options, I feel. I mean, every industry has options, but with the chemical industry, there's pharmaceuticals, there's food, there's, traditional chemical engineering, there's sustainability and energy solutions. So there was just so many options. I felt like I'm a pretty indecisive person, so I felt like my doors were still open with the chemical industry. But then maybe one unexpected thing I found as I've now been in the chemical industry is that my degree, my background in chemistry and chemical engineering has given me a lot of opportunities, I think simply because of how hard people think of it as. And, people sort of can trust you with things a bit more. And that's at least what I've found because they know, you really, put your trust into a very hard degree and they think very highly of you because of that, regardless of really even knowing what you've done. So.
I love that. And I would have to echo that. I remember all of my friends that were in engineering students. I was just like, whatever you say, I'm just, God bless you. I was just a business school student that, they want you to make 105 somehow. And then like engineering, you made 40s and that was good. It was amazing. So I get that. And I can attest, I would trust you because you're an engineer. So hats off to all the SWE students. Good job. That's awesome. Thanks, Caroline. Well, Haley, how about you? And how'd you end up in safety?
So I was actually in nursing school and I wasn't fond of really nursing. I didn't like the blood or the needles and I was like, wow, this was not great. And so I ended up transferring out of nursing school and I got my bachelor's degree in public health and my master's degree in industrial hygiene. So if you're not familiar with industrial hygiene, it's anticipating, recognizing, evaluating, and controlling workplace hazards. So, what's great about the chemical industry, especially the company I work for, is we package and manufacture a lot of different chemicals. So it does take, the health aspects from the nursing that I liked, minus the blood, and you're able to, do the science of protecting and enhancing health, but in a very different way. And there's so many more, kind of what Caroline with a K said. There's so many opportunities for you when it is the chemical industry versus, you can work in any industry and probably have, a nice time, but there's so much more you get to do with the chemical industry, especially with that degree. So it was definitely a no-brainer. I was like, this is where I want to be.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Haley. I love that each one of us, and as I mentioned, I'm a business background and I kind of stumbled upon the chemical industry and I've been here for 10 years and love it. We learn something new every day. I just think there's so much innovation. And I truly, like Emily, like you said, with sustainability, I think sustainability starts here. It starts with this industry. And so I love that and appreciate all the work that you all do in that realm. I love everybody's kind of different educational background and how we all kind of landed here. And I do want to ask, like, let's think back when you were in school and you're like, how do I get a job? What do I do? So thinking back, what helped you land your first job? And if you've pivoted into another role even within your own company or to another company, what helped you land that second job and kind of prepared you for the next? So Haley, I'll start with you.
Sure. So, currently sitting here right now, I have been out of school for a little over 8 years. And my first job out of school was an internship at Bayer. It was back when Bayer had their animal health division. And while my master's degree definitely got the interview, what I think actually helped to get me the job was being involved in extracurricular activities. So I'm sure so many people in that room are a part of a club or maybe a sport, but I ran cross country and track in college, and my boss at the time was a really big trail runner, and his daughter was running high school cross country. So as we're walking around and doing our tour at Bayer, and he's just asking me, he's like, what do you do like outside of school? It had come up and we had talked about it. And if any of you have ever been to a Bayer facility or back when it was Monsanto, the facilities are huge. They're absolutely massive. And so we spoke so much about running and our favorite areas to run, like in the Kansas City area. And it just made the interview so much more relaxed. So I think just a huge thing is kind of finding something that you can mutually bond over was a really big help, and kind of makes you stand out because so many people are going to have a very similar resume to you. So extracurriculars, having things in common, I think really helped. And for my second job, I'm at Hacros. So I really only had two outside of graduation. And well, the internship definitely helped. So definitely building that resume. And once again, just having ease of conversation and having that right fit.
I love that. Personal connections go a long way, especially like how do you stand out from this piece of paper or that? So I love that. Karoline, I would love to hop to you as a recent grad too.
Yeah. In like all honesty, the my first job out of college was Johnson Matthey, and that was through the career fair. So Villanova has, extensive career fairs in the fall and the spring, but this applies to like any school. When you're a student, taking making use of the resources you have. Villanova provides really great resources, not only with the career fair, but the career center. Johnson Matthey at the time was both at the spring career fair, and then they did their own like little session in the career center. And I went to both of those. Like I approached the little booth, and then I went to the meeting that they had with the talent acquisition employees, and I was able to, tell them my name and tell them that I applied. And I think that really made a difference because I was literally talking to the people that were looking at my application on the other end and put a face to the name. And that really helped. So I think, you're welcome to, put your application anywhere, whether that's at a company near Villanova that maybe comes to their career fair or not. But the face to name and maybe finding connections, even if it's not at the career fair, if it's over LinkedIn or something like that, really, I think does like make a difference when you're trying to actually get the job.
Absolutely. I was the same way, in-person info session, and just kind of stumbled in and was like, hey, this is me. And that's how I landed my first job. And I hope, and this is kind of the goal of this type of event for us, is that we're helping try to make those connections. So I'm not in talent acquisition, but I know a lot of people. So if y'all have any jobs and you see it, I'm a connection on LinkedIn, reach out to me. If I know them personally, I will make a connection for you. So just as a side note, that's what we are also here for, is to help you all make some of those connections too. So love that advice, Karoline. Thank you. Emily, how about you?
Sorry, just taking some notes. You guys had some great thoughts.
Okay.
So I also wanted to build off something Karoline had said. So she had said that she went to a lot of job fairs during college. We didn't have as many. I grew up in Idaho, so it's a lot smaller of an area, but I found it really helpful only at job fairs to put my photo on the resumes that I was handing out to specific people, because you're meeting many, many students. I find names are really hard to remember sometimes, but you can always remember somebody's face. I wouldn't necessarily do that for resumes that you're putting online, because that can have some biases that aren't so great, and perpetuate some of those, but it's helpful if you meet somebody in person. So that's the first comment I wanted to just kind of stick in there.
Yeah.
And then for me, I actually consider my first job to be all of the shorter term positions that I held during college. So to get the little ones, I networked with professors to learn which projects might need help, and then reached out to the right people. And when I was trying to get those positions, I highlighted the experience I have from my coursework. So I had to do a project for a class, but I did it and I learned, and that would be applicable in this situation. So I had taken food safety courses for school and then was able to apply to jobs handling food safely because I had the experience. So that's what I would consider my first job, and how to get into that is network with your professors, try to find little things you can do to then build off of. My second job was my first big step into the industry, my big girl job, if you will. And I started as an R&D food scientist role at Right Stuff Foods, which is a smaller co-manufacturer in Idaho. And it had recently been acquired by a really large EU company. So they were putting a bunch of money in it to try to make it better. And it was a really, really great job. For me to land that interview, I showcased every relevant project I'd worked on, paid or unpaid, and even demonstrated my skills on the benchtop during the interview. That opportunity to show what I could do on the benchtop and not just talk about it really helped me blow the interview out of the water. And because of that, I landed the position. Having the hands-on approach for me really set me apart. At that stage, I didn't have a lot of presentation experience or communication skills, but I knew how to make products on the bench. So working towards my skills really helped in that landing that first job. After that, you sort of have a proven track record that you can do these things because you were hired by this person. But up until that point, sometimes showing can be better than talking.
That's amazing. I also never really thought about like the schoolwork that I was doing could be used as my resume builder. I love that. I wish I had met you back then. That would have been really cool. So great note there. Thank you all. So now we're talking through the different ways of like how you landed that job. Also wanted to talk about if you have any, do's and don'ts in interviewing. So as we've all interviewed, we probably continue to interview. I feel like I interview every quarter just because, but what are some do's and don'ts that you have when interviewing, and whether that's internal or an external interview? So Karoline, as our recent grad.
Yeah, sure. And literally just what you said was going to be like the first thing, is that interviewing is a lifelong skill. Like there's no, like you have to learn it now. And if you don't know how to interview now, you're never going to be a good interviewer. I think it's like a process, and people interviewed very differently, and there's no one right way to go about it. It's more so like getting comfortable with yourself and selling yourself. So there's obviously like the very like natural things for an interview, don't be late, dress nicely. All those things are very important. Even if it's online, like good lighting, a quiet room. At Villanova, I know you can like rent out little rooms, I think, in the career center. So if you like need a quiet space to do an interview, like that's there. And that's important. No one's like walking in your roommate during your interview. But then I think when you're talking about interviews in general, um, when you're doing an external interview, which most of you might be doing soon, you know, doing your research on the company is obviously important. People will tell you that. But you don't have to be an expert. Like they know that you don't exactly know what that job is going to look like. And you probably won't know for the whole first month of that job what that job will look like. Um, it's more about like being genuine and enthusiastic about what the role might be. And obviously it's hard to maybe like connect with what that industry does and what that company does and that culture, but just trying your best to be like, could I see myself there? Could like, would this fuel me? What are like the people like, and do you think like you would work well with them? And that might mean, like I said before, like reaching out to someone that works at that company, and like talking to them about that before. That could always help. Honestly, ease your nerves more than help you in what you're going to say. And then briefly about internal interviews, they can be a little bit different, because you have a lot more at your fingertips. If you're looking to do a move internally, you can reach out to other people on that team. I've done a lot of internal interviews recently, and I was interviewing for a quality job in like a different area, complete different business in our company. So I reached out to someone in quality that worked at the site I was in and just talked about what that looks like to, have that accessible to me. It was really helpful. So lifelong skill, you don't have to be perfect at it, but that's just my 2 cents.
I love that. Thank you so much. Emily, I saw you nodding along. I'll let you share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like Karoline said, it's a lifelong skill. I don't even think I'm good at it yet, right? And I don't think any of us ever really will think we're perfect at anything. So I made some notes of things that I used to do in interviews and what people had told me. So you'll hear a lot of conflicting advice, especially if you get on the internet. So it's be yourself, but don't be too much of yourself. Ask questions, but don't ask too many. Be in charge, take charge, ask questions, but let them run it. My biggest takeaway is just play to your strengths. So if you're really great at storytelling, share experience-based examples that highlight your skills. If you're strong on the bench, don't just say it, show it. Offer to create a sample or bring something you've already made. And one practical tip that I've learned about myself in recent months, watch out for filler words like or like. They can really distract from your message. I'm a fairly smart scientist. However, I use a lot of filler words and it can be really difficult to understand what I'm saying because of that. So before an interview or whenever you have time when you're not stressed, record yourself talking about a topic you know really well and then go listen back to it. If you notice too many filler words, practice pausing instead of filling the silence. It'll make you sound more confident and polished. And it's not a problem to pause. I think in the US, we're often uncomfortable with silence and you just kind of have to get comfortable with it. And when you're with yourself, you don't judge and it's easier. So that's my advice.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I agree, there is a lot of conflicting be yourself, but don't be yourself. I really appreciate that of like playing to your strengths. I think that's a really important thing. And filler words are tough. I had a professor in college that if you said or like in a presentation, is an automatic point off of your grade. So you practiced for sure. And I'm still not perfect at it, but I do try to pause more. So I highly recommend that. Thanks for bringing that up, Emily. Haley, how about you? I'd love to hear your thoughts on do's and don'ts. What have you learned?
Sure. So I think Emily and Karoline really nailed this one. There are so many examples online of sample questions that you could potentially be asked in an interview. So go ahead and, look through what sample questions there might be. Additionally, I have been in some interviews with larger companies, and they have very standard templates that they have to do. Like sometimes like even asking how are you is not on the standard template, which is crazy. And so if you are getting an interview, go ahead and check out the company's website. Understand, once again, you don't have to know everything about the company, but understand, what they're about, what their mission statement is. And then also if there's any core values. I have been in an interview where they had 5 core values, and I had to talk about how I matched each of the 5 core values. And it was very strange, and I was not prepared for it at all. And so ever since then, that was in college doing interviewing for an internship. So ever since that moment of they're like, how do you exemplify power? I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I thought you were going to ask me what grade I was in college and how I was doing. So ever since that, like very embarrassing moment, I have gone on companies' websites and I have looked at their mission and if they have any core strengths that they display on their homepage and how I can match the strengths that they display through LinkedIn and stuff like that. And then also going through the examples of online sample questions, just so you don't fall flat on your face when something like that might happen.
That is a very good point. Karoline, sounds like you might have run into that one like a time or two.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, we definitely asked that question about core values because company culture, I think, is so important. And one thing I would just add as a student, it's okay to say no to a job offer. So if it does not feel like it's the right fit for you, you don't have to force that. So I would, as they say, you're interviewing them as much as you are. It's you're going to be spending so much of your time at this facility, at this place with these employee partners and coworkers. It is important that you feel good and comfortable being there and that you're going to be valued and poured into. So I think that that is something that I would also wish I had taken more consideration of in valued hire versus the desperation to have a job. That's would be my things that I would add to that one as much. So as we've gone through some career beginnings, I want to talk through some resources, you know, something that we can leave in the hands of these students that have worked well for you. So how did you build your professional network early on, and what best practices can you share with students, you know, approaching professionals, alumni for advice and building that network as you've grown in your careers? So Emily, I'll start with you on this one.
Sounds great. I remember we used to go to small networking events. My college was fairly small, and my cohort was even smaller. I think there were typically 12 of us. We would go to these networking events and we were terrified. We were standing in the corner and we were trying to push one of the students to go talk to somebody, and then we would all follow, right? So from that moment is kind of what started my networking experience. So my advice would be to be authentic and kind to everyone you meet. It's a really small world. I'm in food science, it's even smaller. You'll be surprised at how often you run into the same people at trade shows or industry events as you continue iteratively throughout your career. And when you approach somebody for advice, remember you're responsible for your own actions and happiness ultimately in the end. You should definitely seek guidance from multiple people to ensure you've got enough information, but in the end, you have to own your decisions as well. I know early on for me, I got some advice from some family members and some people in the industry about what I should do about certain situations. And looking back, I wouldn't do the same thing at all. But you have to own your choices and you have to own your decisions and do what makes you happy and be kind. And I think it'll take you far.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. Karoline, how about you?
That's really great advice, Emily. My answer to this is maybe a little bit more like surface level, because I feel like when I was trying to build my network, you know, at Villanova, they have the Nova Network, and these are probably things you all like know of, but just like maybe explaining how they impacted me. Your career compass mentor is someone that is literally there for you to like tell you about their experience. So like really make use of that. I mentioned reaching out to people on LinkedIn. Alumni like connections can be really powerful, and even recently, like I've reached out to someone that was a Villanova grad just like for something kind of random, and they were so like willing to do that, and I hadn't done that in like 2 years, and I sort of was reminded about how powerful that connection can be. So leaning on that, you know, there's like, you probably know the feature in like LinkedIn, you can go and see who works at that company that went to your school. And then if you do that, you know, there's like some sort of parameters like being respectful of their time, being very grateful, because like Emily said, you're sort of making an impression also on that company and that potential colleague in the future. So definitely, you know, being respectful and engaged and having real questions, not like a checkbox type of thing. So
I so agree with that, of being prepared when you're asking for somebody's time, you know, having these, you know, questions to genuinely get an idea of what the company is like and have those, but that respect of their time is everybody's willing to share their story, but make sure you're doing that for the right reason too. So I appreciate that, and great insight on all the things that you can do at Villanova too. And I'm sure Vanessa has plenty of opportunities and advice on how to get connected further at Villanova. So Haley, would love to hear from you how building your network as any good advice there.
Sure. I would say one of the biggest things with building a network is that you want it to be very mutually beneficial. So while you're hoping to gain a lot from somebody else, maybe their knowledge, their advice, maybe a job opportunity, you also need to be of value yourself. So really find what you strive in, what you're good at, what you can bring to the table. And that is what rounds out the networking. So I think if you want to have a network, you have to really give to the network. So definitely be willing to give on your end as well.
Yeah, I feel like you hear that a lot with mentors that like learn more from their mentees too. So you
Mhm.
might not feel like you are bringing all the value to the table, but you really do by, I feel like, showing up and being present. And you, as students, have a lot to give to those relationships as well. I love that. Thank you so much. And speaking of mentors, uh, how have mentors played a role in your career growth, and any advice for students looking for a mentor? So Karoline, I'll start with you on that one.
Yeah. I think first off, mentors, it doesn't have to be like someone you meet with every month and like you're good friends and um there's like a good connection. Like a mentor is someone that like in the professor in front of your class is sharing like something random about their life and that teaches you something. Like that's mentorship as well. So don't feel like you need some like specific you're searching for some specific person to be your mentor. Um, but I think when it does come to people who you want to take advice from, um, you'd want to kind of look for the people that, are like-minded as you, maybe have a career path that seems interesting or, desirable to you, or their leadership style really inspires you. In the way they like engage a classroom or engage the student group that you're a part of. Um, so it doesn't just have to be a professor or in a technical role as well. Like they can be, someone that works in a student organization or someone else in your life. Um, I personally found strong mentors in like the clubs I was a part of, and working outside of my degree on things that where I practiced my soft skills. So those soft skills are really going to take you far, and I think we mentioned that earlier, even more than maybe what you're learning in the classroom. So when I was able to practice those in like running a meeting for an organization, and they were able to, guide me through that, that was really valuable. But yeah.
I love that. Thanks, Caroline. I think it is important that not every mentor has to be like an assigned mentorship that you meet on a regular schedule. Mentors can be those are also great, but there's
Right.
mentorship in so many of your relationships too. Emily, I saw you nodding along, so hop over to you.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, so for me, mentors have been invaluable. They've offered perspective, challenged me, and helped me navigate some tough decisions when trying to change careers. Like I said, I'm from Idaho, but I moved to Chicago a couple of years back, and trying to navigate different career choices over time. It was really helpful to have mentors to talk through the pros and cons of things that you just don't know if you don't know, right? So for me, the best way that I found mentors was to look for people whose values and work I admired at school or from the industry meetings. And then just start by building genuine relationships, not expecting anything. Ask thoughtful questions, show authentic curiosity, and be open to feedback. Mentorship often just grows naturally from those connections. Like Carolyn said, it doesn't need to be some formal official thing with a mentee and mentor relationship. I think most of our growth through life is small relationships with many people over time.
I love that. I tend to reach out and hear somebody's story, and I'll reach out and say, "Hi, I need to know you. Just share your story. I would love to just learn from you." So, love that. Finding it through different networks and places you've listened to. Haley, how about you?
Sure. So my boss has been my biggest help, and he is so great. I wish everyone could have as good of a boss as I do. He's always given me guidance, advice, skill improvement, goal setting. He increases my confidence when I'm down on myself, which I feel like is so huge. I cannot stress how helpful that is within a career. You had mentioned when we were talking about the interview process, it's okay to say no to a job if it doesn't feel right. And one of the reasons I picked my job, when it was offered to me was because my boss told me in my interview, it was my first big girl job, that he was going to hold my hand and he was going to help me and guide me. And he has done that for the last 8 years. And I can't stress how huge that has been for me.
Love that. Well, awesome. Well, it's always nice, especially when you have a male ally that's willing to support you. I think that's important as we're support women supporting women, but we always need our male allies. So looking at the
Caroline.
time, yeah.
Yep, I was just going to say, if we can maybe head to a Q&A too, just because I think some folks in the room might have questions.
Yes, of course. So the last question we had were for resources. This is something that we can send out later. We have some like books and podcasts and stuff like that, but we would love to cut to a Q&A and hear from you all. Hi students, it's good to see you all.
Mhm.
So anybody want to start? We are ready to hear from you.
Yeah.
Haley mentioned that you need to also provide some kind of value to people within the network, and I was wondering what are practical examples of how you could do that? I feel like most of us, especially the underclassmen, have no value that we can really bring to any people. Is there anything that you could suggest in particular?
I think you guys have a lot more value than you think you do. You have so much fresh knowledge being right out of school. Stuff that you learned yesterday, we haven't learned in like the last decade, and it's not in our brains anymore. So whenever you get asked a question, say it's your first day on the job and your boss asks you, hey, do you remember when you learned about this? I'm a little rusty. Or when someone says, networking can be so light and so easy at first, coming up with like the easiest topics to talk about. And you guys are so fresh. You bring such a new perspective to, different networking events, different job opportunities. So just really relying on the strengths that you have that you can just enlighten the conversation with, even if it's just a little sparkle to make you more memorable. It can always come back when we're like, remember when we met that person? Like, let's go back to them and ask them this, or, rely on them for something else. That's my personal opinion. I know I work with, I'm getting older. I'm rolling into my 30s. And so we do have, new hires within our company where we'll ask them, we'll be like, hey, this has changed. What did they teach you in your class for this? And they know the answer, or they'll say, hey, give me a minute. Let me go look literally in my textbook. And we're like, excellent. And they'll bring it to us. And it's the perfect answer. It's exactly what we are looking for because we don't know everything. So I think that's a big thing, at least in my department.
I would add too that making it a reciprocal relationship in terms of, asking them how they're doing. Is there anything that you could help them process or be a resource to give some ideas if they're going through any struggles? So like as a student and you're talking to somebody that's maybe in the industry, they might not know to ask you that question of like, well, actually, how do you do this? What have you learned in school? But y'all all are able to problem solvers, and just because you're a student doesn't mean you couldn't solve the problem. So just because you graduate doesn't mean you all of a sudden become the problem solver too. So you're critically thinking, but just adding that reciprocation of asking them how they're doing, because more often than not, they're always going to come to you and be like, how is it going? Anything I can help you with? And it's like, yes. But you could also ask that back. How are you doing? Is there anything I could maybe help you with? And just asking that question, you never know where that door will lead.
Yeah, I agree. And I just wanted to add, so I'm from the benchtop side. I don't know if any of you were scientists planning on doing any of the geeky stuff. But we had the ability at my school to take on projects for companies that were long-term projects that maybe they didn't have as much of a timeline restraint on. It might not be possible at your school, but something that you could do is talk to the people and say, hey, are there any trends you're noticing or any things you're thinking you might have to fix? And then you could start looking into it on your own and just kind of keep reaching out to them with new things you learn. You could ask your professors, you know, if they were struggling to replace titanium dioxide, you could ask your professors, hey, why is titanium dioxide so hard to replace? Something like that, and then pass that information on. You don't have to solve all of the problems, but I think showing that you're willing to put thought and effort into maintaining the conversation around this specific topic can be really beneficial. We all like to talk, we all like to be heard, and sometimes that's what a mentor-mentee relationship can come from, is just the ability to listen to somebody who wants to share both ways.
I love that. Any other questions out there? I'm also going to go ahead and put on the screen, just if people need to start funneling out. Here's the QR code if you want to join our newsletter. So this is, again, an email that comes on Mondays. It will have different virtual panels that we host that you can join if it works with your class schedule. The podcast for Woman of the Week, those are great tools to listen. And if any of those stories resonate, you can reach out very specifically saying, hey, I heard your podcast for Women in Chemicals, would really love to ask some questions, and you can reach out that way too. So encourage you all to join online. And of course, if y'all think of other resources that Women in Chemicals could provide, we would love to hear from you as well too. So just in case anybody has to leave, I wanted to put that up there. And this is our corporate sponsors. So if you want to take a picture of those, great places to start who are already supporting women in the industry. So please take a picture and check out those companies too. So other questions?
Any other questions? Yeah.
Did you guys find that you were immediately good at the job that you're doing now, or did it take time to sort of get used to this sort of thing? Does that make sense?
Great question. Short answer for me is absolutely not. It was a learning curve and probably took, and I'm still learning today. It's always there, but I think there were certain things I knew I was good at, which was I'm not afraid to ask the question. So if I was given a task that I didn't fully understood, I didn't try to chew a bite that I couldn't chew by myself. That's a beard. Bite off more than you can chew was where I was trying to go with that. But essentially, it was like not afraid to ask a question and ask for help, because everybody's learning. So that's my first thing. Give yourself some grace to learn, but you're always making progress, and don't be afraid to ask questions. So panelists, anything else from you all?
I can give it a quick go. I just finished a program where I did like 3 jobs, each 8 months each, and then now I'm in a new one. So this is like my 4th time going about the new job thing, and it's like exhausting, like trying to figure out and learn a new job. And I would say even in those 8 months, like it probably took me to like month 7 to like finally like get my groove. And that's like the challenge of that program, and a lot of like early careers programs that might be opportunities for you, is that, you know, you might only be just getting your traction before you then have to hop off, but at the same time, a lot of exposure. So there's pros and cons. But yeah, I think it takes a lot of time. And I think Haley also had something to say, so I'll pass it to you.
I don't think anyone's good at their job when they first start. I think everybody tries incredibly hard, and I think that everybody who hires somebody new gives a lot of grace. I don't think anyone is expected to know anything right off the bat. But Karoline with a C had said, ask so many questions. And I always tell people this, I'd rather you ask a question than do something and we have to fix the mess. So definitely ask a lot of questions. You will be given a lot of grace, and you will grow and you will do wonderfully.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on that. So for me, I was great at the lab work when I first started my job. Hadn't ever done it before, but that's one thing I knew I was really good at and was able to start. There were a lot of other things that I was not as great at with my job. So like Haley said, nobody expects you to be good at everything when you first start. I didn't have the best soft skills. I didn't have any PowerPoint making skills whatsoever. I still struggle with Excel. I don't think I know anybody who doesn't, though, to be fair. But just like with cooking in the kitchen, right? Some people are really good at baking. Some people are really good at meat. Some people are really good at starches. It's the same with your job. There's going to be things you're good at right off the bat, and there's going to be things that you're not as great at, and you have to work out a little harder to get there. And like, I don't know, remember if it was Karoline or Haley said, you don't have to know everything and do everything when you first start. They'll give you a lot of grace. I'll throw out a number. I feel like you need to do about 60% of your job when you first start. You can get a D. Getting hired is the harder part. But once you're hired, it's okay. You can spread your wings a little bit and find what you're good at and just try to do your best. And yeah, we hired a new scientist out of college, and it's a lot of learning. I mean, there's stuff that you think is common sense because you've done it forever, and you have to learn the ropes as you go. So yeah, I wouldn't stress about not knowing everything to start, for sure.
I'd like to build on that too, because I think it's especially as you are specialized and as you grow, you know what you're really good at, and you're usually getting hired for a certain skill set. Every job and every company is different. So you're also going to have to learn, as you said, Emily, learning the ropes, not only of your job, but the people. You might be a subject matter expert, but you're not the people expert of that job yet. So you're also studying those people. And then as you're learning those people, is when you can start really implementing that skill set, and you're still building upon your skill set. But just down the line too, even if you are the subject matter expert of it, you have to know the people, because that is in itself a job.
Awesome. Well, does anyone else have any kind of final last minute questions? I see a lot of shaking their heads. Thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Vanessa, and thank you all to the students that have joined us. We look forward to seeing your faces in our industry, and if you come to work at one of our companies, do let us know. We'd love to know that. So.
All right.
And I just wanted to, sorry, just want to